The Raptgo Hook X, another planar IEM that's released amongst a lot of other planar IEM on the market right now, but this is easily one of the more special IEM that was released. Why is that? We'll find out in today's video. Hey friends, Timmy here, welcome back to another video on Giz Audio, and today we have the Hook X review plus comparison to the Timeless, the S12 and P1 Max. We'll do all those comparisons towards the end of the video. Let's first start off with the tuning of this IEM. The tuning is really good, by the way. Starting with the bass power is very solid in both the sub bass and the mid bass. For those of you who love bass heads, you're gonna find the power on the Hook X to be sufficient, not overwhelming type of bass, but just enough to give you that sense of fun, that sense of hits and slam. By the way, the hits and slam are very satisfying as well. The low end is just so well done, super fun for rock and roll, for R&B, for EDMs. All those genres played really well on the Hook X. Leading into the mid-range, it does have a little bit of warmth carry on from the bass. Nothing unnatural though, no muddiness, no bloatiness in any way. Just a touch of warmth to give your music this extra bit of meat, the extra bit of heft or musicality for some of you guys out there. Very nice sounding, relaxed type of low end. Again, super well done. The mid-range as a whole, besides a little bit of warmth, is rather clean sounding with really good energy in the upper mid-range. Now the upper mid-range, although I say it does have sufficient amount of energy, for my personal taste though, it has a little bit too little. It's less than the 7Hz Timeless and the S12, but a little bit more than the P1 Max. For those of you who love vocals, or you love vocals to be the forefront of your music, in this IEM you won't get that quite as well. It still pops up very well from everything else in the song, but the bass and how much you get in the low end, the warmth that it has, that's gonna be the main focus, the relaxing, laid back feeling. Although again, the upper mid range is not too tame where it doesn't pop. It still pops, it still makes its presence known, but it's not gonna be the main focus of the song. Now on to the treble area. I'm a big fan of how the treble is done here. There's a little bits and pieces that I don't like, but largely I really like this. Treble is neutral. It has just enough treble energy to carry over the vocals, the instrumentals. Nothing feels like it was cut off too short or too congested. Everything feels like it has enough room to breathe and enough extension to feel natural, or as natural as they can possibly sound, with one caveat that on some songs I do get sibilances on these. Now with sibilances, if you're sensitive to that, you might get more than other people. If not, you might get none at all. I think most people won't notice this as much unless, again, you're sensitive, like I said. In terms of micro details that you usually get in IEMs with a lot of treble, this thing does have that, but in very small amounts. You won't get anything that truly pops out in the treble region, again, because the treble is so neutral that it's just enough to carry over the extensions, but it's not enough to really highlight any little nuances like the percussions or the little cymbals. All those still comes across natural, but they won't pop out as little kind of hits of micro details, if you will. Now on to arguably the most exciting part of the Raptgo, the details, the technical performance. Let's bring up my scale right here. This thing lands right around, I would say, the Timeless. Yeah, it maybe is a step, I don't even want to say that. Let's just say it's around the Timeless. It is so good, so good. Really well detailed IEM, very dynamic as well. The hits and the slam, the separation between the notes is done very, very well. And for the price, $239, I think, it's alongside the Timeless as probably the most valued for money when it comes to the detail retrieval. Just amazing how much details you can get out of this thing. But what's even more amazing is the soundstage, and this is the special sauce that only the Hook X has. Well, not really only the Hook X, but it does it the best. The soundstage on here is so wide, it's open, it's wide, and it makes every song just sound nice and open. It just sounds better. Music sounds less congested, sounds more realistic. The stage is also very nice as well. It may not have the deepest depth, and that's probably the only downfall in the Hook X, is that it doesn't really hit the deepest or has the the tallest vertical out there, but it has super solid wide horizontals. It just feels super open. I don't know how else to explain it. You have to hear the Raptgo Hook X on your own to really get the feel of how different this thing sounds than any other planar IEMs out there, or even comparison to any other IEMs under $300 or even under $400 or $500 out there. This thing is exceptionally wide, and that is the special sauce of the Hook X. The one thing that makes this so special, the one thing that makes music sound so satisfying to listen to off of this. This is probably my favorite part of this IEM. I don't know if it has to do with the open back design or not. I really don't think it's the open back design, because I don't think the open back really matters all too much in this IEM, to be honest with you. It's just whatever they did with this, it just works. The soundstage, the imaging, the detail retrieval, so good. Probably the best under $300. Yeah, probably is. Now onto the comparison segment. We have our first pair, the Hook X versus the Timeless. Now these are around the same price. The Hook X is around $10 to $15 to $20 more depending on what model the Timeless you're comparing it to. But let's just say they're the same price. If you're buying an IEM under $300, you have these two options to consider for PLANARS. Now, there's some parts of the Timeless that I like more than Hook X, and there's some parts of the Hook X that I like more than the Timeless. I would say these two, there's none that's really better than the other. It really depends on your taste. For me, tuning wise, I still prefer the Timeless. I like the forwardness of the vocals. I love the energy you get in the upper mids and the treble. That the Timeless does better. My music, my library plays better on the Timeless. The vocalists, especially female vocals, just sound more emotional, more forward, just more lively in general on the Timeless for me, and most of my library is that, so hence I love the Timeless for that. The one thing I love the Hook X better for is the technical performance, especially in the soundstage. The soundstage on the Hook X is just addicting. It's just better than the Timeless. That's all I can say about it. It's just so addicting to listen to the Hook X, and A being between the two, switching back and forth, it's so hard to decide which is actually better. I would say if you love vocal forwardness, if that's an important factor to you, then the Timeless is still my preferred choice. But if you want a more laid back signature, you want a more bass focus, you want a little bit of warmth, relaxing type of tunes, then the Hook X is the pick of choice. Technical performance wise, I would say details, they're about the same. Soundstage, again, the Hook X wins. It's a toss-up, really is a toss-up. Both though are really worth the money. I would say the quality performance of these two easily doubles the price tag that is at. These are around $220, $230 each, but they perform easily competing with the $400, $500, $600 IEM. No joke, these are just that great. Yeah, can't decide which one I like better. Just buy both. Next pair, the Hook X versus the S12. Now the S12 to me is tuned similar to the Timeless, but with more energy, even more energy in the treble area, especially making this thing sound so singy, so energetic, so lively, very opposite of the Hook X. I would say if you want a more laid-back signature still, the Hook X is the way to go. But if you want a really well done, really well-tuned, energetic planar, then the S12 is the way to go. Detail retrieval wise, I would say the Hook X wins by a small margin. Soundstage wise though, the Hook X wins by quite a wide margin. Lastly, we have Hook X versus P1 Max. Now the P1 Max is easily the most tamed out of all the planars out there. The tuning on this, the bass and the upper mid-range are both pretty equal, on par with each other. Nothing really pops ahead of one another. It does have a little bit of warmth as well. That's something that's similar to the Hook X in tuning. For me, the Hook X is just the better option. The tuning on these two kind of walk in the same direction. The Hook X has more contrast, meaning that the bass and the vocals pop more on the Hook X. It's more satisfying to listen to on the Hook X for me than the P1 Max. The P1 Max, I would say, are for people who really want the most relaxing planar possible. For those few people, this one's gonna be the best pick. But all in all, I think the Hook X really makes the P1 Max almost obsolete in a way, because it's similar in tuning, just the Hook X does it better. And also the soundstage on the Hook X is also wider than the P1 Max as well. The P1 Max is not a bad planar at all. It sounds like I'm bagging on the P1 Max. I'm not. It's still a very good IEM, and for the dollar amount that you're paying for this, it's still one of the most value for money IEM wise out there on the market. It's just that there's better options. So with all of that said, what's my final verdict on the Hook X? It's a phenomenal IEM. It's truly phenomenal IEM, and for the price, it is a bargain. The soundstage itself is the widest amongst the planar, and not only even amongst the planar, amongst other IEMs under $300, it's easily one of the widest soundstage that I personally heard. So yeah, it's a very special planar IEM. The tuning might not be my most favorite tuning. I wish the upper mid-range and the treble was a little bit more to give a little bit more energy to the vocals, but that's just my personal preference. For a lot of you guys out there, this is gonna sound extremely good. And for me, it's a hard recommendation. If you're looking for a planar IEM right now, it is just one of the best ones you can grab out there.